Hey, how's it going? I'm Edwin, and welcome to your 7th Pebble development tutorial. So a side note before we get started, I have been really busy, so I haven't been able to make these as often as I used to. Basically, it's summatives and at school, which are finals if you're not in Canada. And so that means it's a lot of work for me, and I also have had a fever for the past few days, and so excuse me if I cough or blow my nose during this tutorial. I'm getting better, but I still need to get something done. So anyway, today we're going to be covering window, all sorts of window related aspects. So the window itself, the window stack, and all the functions, or at least most of the functions that are associated with window. All right, so if you're curious as to what a window is, it's the building block for Pebble development. Basically, anytime you're using your Pebble, you're using an app which is inside of a window. So your watch face is a window. When you go to your menu, that's a window with a menu on top. Your music app is a window, etc. So I have some examples here just from my apps. And there can only be one window displayed at a time. So, when there's one being pushed, sure, I guess technically there's two right there that are visible, but it's only for like a few hundred milliseconds, so that doesn't really count. And so here are a few window functions, and I'll just briefly go over what they do. So window create simply creates a window. It returns a window pointer. Window destroy, you pass in your window pointer, and that frees it from the memory and everything for you. Window get click config provider, that returns the click config provider if you have one set to the window. Get full screen returns a boolean of whether or not the window is set full screen. Window get root layer returns the root layer of the window. If you've been following my previous Pebble development tutorials, which I assume you have, you'll be familiar with this already. And window get user data, and you pass in your window. So I have actually never used this before. I actually haven't heard of it until I looked into some more window functions when I was creating this PowerPoint. Sorry. And so you can actually say Windows set user data and pass in whatever pointer you want, and it associates it with that window, and you can grab it later. So that's pretty handy. Then there are also window click functions, which there are too many of them to fit in here. So, window set click config provider, window multi-click subscribe, single click subscribe, etc. We've already went over a multitude of those in previous tutorials. And lastly, window set status bar icon. You pass in your window and your gbitmap, which we went over in another tutorial, I think maybe tutorial 5 or 6. And this simply sets your status bar icon. Just like when you're in the music app or the settings app, you can see a little icon in the top left corner. Alright, so here's a simple example of some window functions. So we're just going to pretend down here that main is finished and everything. So we have our text layer here called hello, and we have our window called window 1. And I know this is really messy code. That's not the point. The point is to, show the capabilities. So you have window 1 being created with window create. Notice how you don't pass a window in, it returns a window for you. Window set full screen, you do pass in your window, and you pass in the boolean of whether or not you want to set it full screen. This boolean full screen will return true for this case because it's going to run this every single time. But I just wanted to show you a use case of this. So window get full screen, your window 1, you pass in your window, and then layer your root layer of your window, you get it with window get root layer, pass in your window. And if this little zoom thing ever annoys you guys, just tell me in the comments. I'll stop using it. I just want people who maybe can't download the HD video to be able to, see what I'm looking at. So window set user data, here we're just passing in our text layer hello, so we're passing in a pointer. This is void data, so that means you can pass in any pointer. And then we also have passed in our window here to associate it, which is actually incorrect. This should say window 1, but you know, sometimes I seem to do that. And then here we have our text layer pointer user data, which is going to be equal to the pointer of hello, and we're just grabbing that user data using window get user data, and it should say window 1. Another mistake on me. And then app log, this will just simply print the pointer. And then window stack push, you just put the window on top of the stack and if you want to animate it or not. Alright, so now for window handlers. So a window handler is an event-driven handler for a few different actions for the window. So there's load, unload, appear, and disappear. So load is for when the window is loaded or pushed for the first time. So this handler is, you might have seen it before in my tutorials. We usually call it window load, and you pass in a window pointer. You do with all of these, and that's your type def for it. Pardon me. And so then unload does the opposite. Destroy all the elements that are on your window. These are handy when you're creating your window and you want to create the elements with it or destroy the elements with it, because you don't always want to have the layers and whatnot in memory, and then you waste battery and you waste memory, and it just becomes a whole mess. These are really nice. Appear and disappear are also nice. It basically appear is for when the window is visible, so when the user can see it, instead of if you have one window and you push another on top, and then you can't see that window, then disappear will be called, because you can't see it anymore. It's covered, or it's pardon me, hidden. And I believe this disappear or appear will be called on push and pop, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I haven't used those before. Yeah, generally you're only going to need load and unload, but appear and disappear, those sound pretty handy. So here's an example for each of those. I basically have just a simple handler for each one. So you see we set them down here with window set window handlers. Pass in your window, cast it to window handlers, throw it in here, and define all of them. You have to make sure you type these exactly like this. So dot load, all lowercase, dot unload, dot appear, dot disappear, and then whatever your function name is has to be exactly like this. And this has to look similar. You have to have your handler name the same, and you have to be passing in a window, or else you're going to get an error on trying to compile. And so just to run through these really quick, on appear, it sets the text layer hidden to false so you can see it, and it double pulses the watch, just so you know, because it's pointless to hide it, and you wouldn't be able to tell anyway. And then on disappear, it does hide it, and it short pulses the watch. On unload, it destroys the text layer, and on load, it creates it for you, adds it to the window. And then window stack. So this is a very important concept in Pebble development. I'm sorry if this is a lot, guys, but this is all really, really crucial, and I thought I'd stuff it into one big tutorial. So, all right, the window stack it's like a stack of cards. So you can pop one off the stack, so remove one, and that's window stack pop, which you might have seen earlier. And you can push one on, so add one onto the stack, as you've seen earlier with window stack push. So there's also window stack remove, but we're going to go through some of the functions right now. So there's window stack push, pass in your window, pass in your boolean of whether or not you want it animated. There's window stack pop, pass in whether or not you want it animated, so this removes one. Push adds it. this returns a Boolean, so window stack contains window. So of your stack of cards, let's say you have an ace, a 4, and a jack, and we're just going to exclude different types like hearts and whatnot, and you ask this equivalent function, does my stack have a 2? It would return false because we only have an ace, a 4, and a jack. All right, so this is the same for the window. So you pass in your window and your window pointer, and it returns whether or not that window has been pushed and is in the stack. So window stack remove actually returns a Boolean value of whether or not it was successful. So basically, it will only return false if the window is either null, or it isn't in the stack, or it doesn't exist at all. But I guess if it didn't exist at all, you'd get an error because the window variable wouldn't exist. And then you pass in your animated. So you pass in your window and your Boolean animated, of course, and it'll check for that window pointer. Window stack get top window will return the window pointer for the very top of the stack. And then last but not least, window stack pop all Boolean animated. That's going to remove everything on your stack. So if you have, 1 window pushed, it's going to remove that. If you have 18 windows pushed, which would be just crazy, then it would remove all of them. And if you call this and don't push a window immediately after, your app will close. Same with window stack pop. If the window stack is out of windows and you don't push one pretty quickly after, it will just kill your app and kill the app event loop. So here is a window stack example. So I'm just showing you a couple of the functions here. I tried to stuff in a few. So we have 2 windows, window 1 and window 2, and we have a Boolean called switch bool, which is currently false. On init, we have our windows being created, of course. We have a simple tick timer with a second unit. If you don't know what that is, check out my previous tutorials. Pardon me. We're setting window 1 to full screen. Pardon me again, sorry. And we are pushing window 1, and it is animated. And then up here in our tick handler, so this is called every second, we are removing the top of the stack. So remember, this window stack get top window returns the current window, and then it inverts the switch bool. So if it's true, push window 2. So that will happen. Otherwise, push window 1. And so that's pretty simple, and that is, that is basically everything that you would ever need to work with for Windows. So yes, that's a lot of content. If you're confused by anything, just rewind the video, and if you have any questions, ask me in the comments. Don't be afraid, or you can email me, contact@edwinfinch.com, and I'll try to get back to you, all right? I know this can all be really confusing, and trust me, I had no clue what I was doing when I started all of this, but let's hop into some simple example code now with our Hello World program. All right, so here we got our Sublime text up. We're just going to pull a terminal. Already got that up. All right, so where we left off here, we basically added the action bar layer, the little bitmap layer, with our happy light bulb. And now we're going to want to make our app full screen, because we don't need that status bar on top. We already have the time there. We don't need that status bar, so we're just going to... Oh, so here actually is where I write the example, so we're just going to delete that. So here in init, we are going to simplify this too to window set window handlers. So let's just do that now. We are going to create a function called window load and pass in our pointer called W. And then generally in window load, you want to add elements that are just going to be on that window and don't affect your app overall. So, you know, you're going to want to register your tick handlers, connection services, etc. in init, deregister them in dinit if they are used across the whole app. Whereas if they're just used in the one window, you're going to want to handle that in there. But generally, people, you know, use your handlers and whatnot across the whole app. So we're just going to throw this all in here. Oh. And delete this again. Alright, so now we are also going to want this window layer. Forgot about that. And we are going to be pasting stuff in and again, so slow down there if you're getting too excited. So remember, we're going to want to take our services and pass those in to init. And just remove this comment if you have that. Or don't if you love memories. Okay, so now we have our stuff being created, but we're actually going to want to rename this to W just for kicks. And then that should work fine. And of course we haven't set our handlers yet, but we're going to do window unload too. Because we're going to be dealing with multiple windows now, we don't want all this eating up the memory at the same time. And by the way, you don't need to worry about destroying this layer if you're new to C, because it cleans it up. Well, it's, you know, it's temporary. It's just in this function. Alright, so let's set our window handlers too. And we're going to set our load to window load. Remember, it has to be typed just like that. And our unload to window unload. Alright. And so now we've got all that set up. And we're going to want to set our window full screen. So I recommend you do this before you push the window on the stack, or else you get weird effects. So window set full screen. I believe that's the correct function. Okay. And now we're just going to build this. Boom! Playing cards. Alright. And of course, on our window unload, we're going to want to destroy our elements. So let's just take all this crap, and we are going to copy paste it into here. We're not creating elements again, don't forget. We are just putting this in here so that we can now destroy them. Actually, you know what? This will take too long, and we're not too worried about memory conservation right now, so you can just delete the window unload. I'm not too worried about it. Maybe we'll add it later. It'll just take up too much time. So let's deal with something else right now. Let's throw in another window. So let's call this window game. So let's actually, we're going to be creating a game from now on. I'm just going random here. So we're going to need to create this window and window create in our init, sorry. We need to set our window to full screen as well. Well, actually, we're not going to set it to full screen because we're going to need to see the time there. We're not going to have it in our game. We are going to set the handlers though. And we're going to call this window load game. And we are going to have an unload for this because people are going to want to back out of our game. And we want to destroy our elements so we don't have overlapping stuff, and so we don't have a buildup of memory and whatnot. And So yeah, now we have that created. We are going to want to push it somehow. So let's push it on a button click. So let's set up a new single click here on, let's say the up button, but you can do the back button or the down button or the up button, whatever you like. Push our game window. Animated. And so we're going to want to have these functions exist. We're going to want to have them to exist, sorry. And we're going to pass in our window pointer. Let's just change that. Alright, now we have these. Our window should be all good to go. We'll just build. No. We'll just build and see no errors. Okay, it's always good to check if you're not rocking Cloud Pebble and you know, you're living the hard knock life like I am. And so, okay, let's check how long we've been. Alright, I just checked the time of this video and it seems that we are a little over 20 minutes, so we're just going to split this into two parts, so hopefully when you view this, the second part's already out. But, you know, I've already given you an overview, and if you feel comfortable enough, feel free to go ahead and experiment with all these handlers. You know, explore. It's really awesome. It's really good for you to just go out and try the functions for yourself. You know, if you get errors, that's fine. You don't succeed by, you know, just constantly having wins. You gotta fail. Like when I built my first apps, I swear it was like 1 out of 20 builds was successful, and even then it like crashed. And so, you know, try whatever you'd like. I'm sorry if I'm mumbling on here in my monotone voice, but yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace out.